Hello everyone, I welcome you in the virtual classroom of managerial economics. We are discussing unit number 2 production function, and in that we are discussing part 1, that is economies and diseconomies of scale. We have already completed the economies of scale and we have also completed the internal diseconomies of scale. I am repeating the meaning of economies and diseconomies again. If production increases and cost per unit reduces, production increases, cost reduces, then it is known as economies of scale. Exact opposite to it is diseconomies of scale. When production increases, per unit cost of production increases, means production increases, cost increases, is known as diseconomies of scale. In the discussion that we have done in earlier lecture, we come to know that initially there is a economies of scale. In every firm there is an optimum point beyond up to which if you increase your production your cost is reducing. But if you go beyond that point for expanding your production, then your cost per unit will increase. That we have seen in the earlier lectures, in the first introductory lecture. Here, Q1 is an optimum limit. If you go beyond an Q1 point, your cost increases, which is known as diseconomies of scale. Then we have seen that there are two types of economies of scale, that is internal and external. Likewise, there are two types of diseconomies of scale, that is internal and external. In last lecture also I have given you the meaning of internal and external diseconomies, that if your cost of production increases because of the reason situated within the organization, then it is known as internal diseconomies of scale. But if your cost of production increases because of the reason situated outside the organization, then it is known as external diseconomies of scale. There is one more difference between internal and external diseconomies, which is internal diseconomies is related to single firm only, whereas external diseconomies is related to each and every firm within an industry. Means every firm's cost of production is increasing. Now let us discuss in detail external diseconomies. External diseconomies are not suffered by single firm, as I have just told you, but by the firms operating in a given industry. Means every firms which are operating in an industry, their cost of production is increasing. These diseconomies arise due to much concentration and localization of industries beyond a certain stage. One reason is given here, that why cost of production increases, why diseconomies arises, because of much concentration and localization of industries beyond a certain stage. Take an example of one locality, that one GIDC area is there where the optimum limit to be operating to operate within this area is 100 units. 100 unit can be established very well, their needs can be satisfied. But if instead of 100 unit, what will happen if 150 unit will establish over there? Everyone will get lesser area to operate. There will be scarcity of each and every resources, which will result into increased cost of production. Take an example that here these resources are available to satisfy the need of 100 units only. But if 150 units will be established over there, then demand for the resources will increase and supply will be in a scarcity, because resources are there only for the 100 units. So supply is less, demand is more, your cost will be more. Getting it? So this is the reason that why external diseconomies arise, because of the much concentration and localization of industries beyond an optimum limit. Here we have seen in our example that 100 is an optimum limit. If more than 100 units will be established, then everyone will suffer. Localization leads to increased demand for transport, and therefore transport cost rises. If so many units will be established over there, everyone will demand for transportation of their raw material and finished goods. So demand for transportation will increase, which will create stress on the transport industry. So the transport cost will rise. Similarly, as the industry expands, there is competition among the firms for factors of production and raw materials. As I have told you earlier that there is enough land area for 100 units, but if 150 units will establish, then there will be competition with each other for having a land area, which will result into the higher price of land area. Then there will be again competition for raw material. There is a sufficient raw material for 100 unit, but if 150 unit will demand, then raw material will be in scarcity and they have to fight within for purchasing the raw material. In that situation, only supplier will be benefited with a higher price. This raises the prices of raw material and other factors of production. As a result of all these factors, external diseconomies becomes more powerful. Because of much concentration, demand of the factors will increase, and which will result into more and more increase in our cost of production, and that is written here as external diseconomies become more powerful. Now let us see the types of external diseconomies. There are three types of external diseconomies, which are diseconomies of pollution, diseconomies of higher factor prices, diseconomies of strain on infrastructure. Now, let us discuss in detail the first one, diseconomies of pollution. The localization of an industry in a particular place or a region pollutes the environment. The polluted environment acts as health hazard for the laborers. Thus, the social cost of production rises. If there is a too much concentration of any industry, take the example of Jodhpur only. Here we are having the concentration of textile industry, which result into the air pollution and the water pollution. You know that the polluted water, the dirty water of these textile industries, they are removing in a river area, which pollutes the drinkable water in a river. So there is a water pollution, and again there is a use of the chimney by these textile industries, which pollutes the air of a town of the Jodhpur town. So what is the reason of this pollution, of the water pollution and of the air pollution? The reason is the concentration of these industries. What how it will result? There is a polluted water, there is a polluted air, which results into lesser expected life of the citizens. And you know that if we see it overall, if we take it whole picture, then each and every citizen of that town is suffering from the lesser life expectancy. So there is a increase in a social cost. But if we look at our own factory only, then the employees and the laborers are also living in that town only. Their life expectancy reduces. They are getting disease now and then, so they will be absent on a work, and your production schedule will be disturbed, and your cost of production will increase. If you don't look at holistic approach, then if you have a selfish perspective, if you think about your farm only, then also this pollution is having higher cost of production. If you don't think about society, if you are not that much ethical, then also your cost of production increases. In greed of earning more and more profit, the industries are using the production methods which are creating pollution in the environment. They are thinking that it will not affect their farm, it will affect only society, but they are forgetting they are also the part of the society. They are living in a society, within a society, so they are also affected. Their life is at risk. They are also getting disease. So their product, if they have a selfish motive also, if they think of if they are self-centered only, then also they will get disease, they will be absent on their work, and their production schedule will disturb, and their cost of production will increase, which will happen to the each and every employee of the every firm within that industry. That is why we are terming it as a diseconomies of pollution as a part of external diseconomies. Then the second diseconomies is diseconomies of strain on infrastructure. The localization of an industry puts excessive pressure on the transportation facilities in the region. As a result of this, the transportation of raw material and finished goods get delayed. The communication system in the region is overtaxed. As a result of strain on infrastructure, monetary as well as real cost of production rise. Here the heading is given as diseconomies of strain on infrastructure. That our cost of production is increases because of the pressure, because of the stress created on infrastructural facility. Now let us have a look over what infrastructural facilities we are using. Then electricity is there, water is there, road facility, transportation, insurance, communication, banking, every facilities we can take. First of all, take an example that are written here as a transportation facility. If there is a too much localization of industry, so many firms are situated in that area, then everyone is demanding the transportation for transporting the raw material and the finished goods. What will result? That it will create pressure on the capacity of the transporter, which will increase the higher freight rate by the transport companies. Our cost of production increases. First example. Second, there will be increase in a communication system because it will be overcharged, overtaxed. Why? Because on communication system also there will be pressure because it will be used by too many people at a time. You must have experienced that on the day of declaring your result, there is a server down. Why? Because so many students are searching the result on a same time. So what is the result? When everyone is using the first communication facility on the same time, it will create pressure on that communication system, which may delay your activity performance, which will increase your cost of production. You may experience that because of the too much usage, internet charges increases. The mobile phone rate charges increases. Why? Because too much use of our communication facilities. You can take the example of Geo only, that it was the Geo who has started giving the internet and the voice calling facility free initially. Now other companies are providing voice calling facilities free, but it is only Geo who is charging voice calling facility 10 paisa per minute. Why? Because of the increasing number of customers for Geo. Other telecommunication operators are not facing that difficulty. Why? Because their number of customers are not that much as compared to Geo. So what is the crux of this discussion? That if you create too much pressure on the system, your cost of production increase. Jio is not willing to charge the rupees charge from the customer, because they know if they will charge, they will lose the customer. But it is compulsory for them. Why? Because they cannot afford to handle that much crowd. So the cost of production increases. Then you can take the example of electricity. You know that even the PGVCL is providing you for the industrial unit that up to a limit, if you use electricity, there is a lesser charge. But if you go beyond a limit, even per unit rate will increase. So beyond a limit, if you increase your production, your electricity bill will increase. Then another example you can take, that is of insurance company, that if you go expand your firm beyond a capacity, then risk is also increasing, and insurance is having a direct relation with a risk, that if risk increases, your premium also increases. Then you can take the example of water facilities also. uh, if there is a enough usage of water, it will be available to each and everyone, but for industrial usage, even government is charging that if you use beyond a capacity, that your per liter rate will increase, so that will increase your cost of production. Here we have seen that in different categories, be it transportation, communication, electricity, water, insurance, their uh, their facilities rates are, their service charges are increasing. Why? Because we are using it too much. That is written it here as diseconomies of strain on infrastructure. Strain means we are creating stress on infrastructure, and that is why our cost of production increases. Then the next one is the last one. There is economies of higher factor prices. The excessive concentration of an industry in a particular industrial area leads to keener competition among the firms for the factors of production. As a result of this, the prices of the factors of production go up. Hence, the expansion and the growth of an industry would lead to rise in the cost of production. The title given here is high factor prices. There are four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Let us discuss one by one. First of all, land. If there is a too much concentration of industry, if there is a localization of industries too much, then what will happen? That the price of the land will increase. You know that initially, when the area is not developed, one or two firm goes to a remote area, then they have taken the land on a very cheap rate. But if every farm will go over there, then demand for the land will increase, which will increase the prices of a land. You can take the example of Mumbai only. That in India, we can assume that the highest lands price are there in a Mumbai. Why? Because the population within the Mumbai is more as compared to the land area available. That is why the charges are more. Same is a reason for the industry, that if in any GIDC area, say for example, there is a land for 100 farms, and if 150 farms or 200 farms goes there, then everyone's land's price will increase. The prices of land will increase. The first factor is land. Then second one is labor. If you increase the production, then demand for labor increases. Initially, it may happen that the need for the labor may be satisfied within that region. But if you keep on increasing the demand for the labor, what will happen? That initially you may compromise from the skilled to semi-skilled, then semi-skilled to unskilled. Firstly, you will be you must be using only skilled workers. But if you keep on increasing the production, skilled workers may not be there, then you have to hire the unskilled workers. One point of time may come where you may not find a single labor from a market, not even unskilled. In that situation, you have to import the labors from the outer states, from the states which are underdeveloped. And that is the reason that why the people, laborers from the UP and Bihar came to the developed states. Why? Because in developed states there is a scarcity of labor. Now if you are importing labor from the other state, then definitely their wage rate will increase. Demand for labor is more, supply for labor is less. It is not matching with each other. Demand and supply is not matching. That is why higher wage rate will be charged by the laborers. Land, labor. Then third one is capital. Capital is always in a scarcity. If you are raising loan once from a bank, they may give you in a lesser interest rate, but if you keep raising loan from the bank, every time your interest rate will increase. That we have seen in the external diseconomies in our financial difficulties. In the last lecture, we have discussed in financial diseconomies. There I have given you the same example, that if you raise loan one time, there may be lesser interest rate, but if you keep on raising the loan every time, your interest rate will increase. Why? Because the bank is perceiving more risk in your enterprise. Land, labor, capital, and the last one is entrepreneur. In entrepreneur, initially he may have initially when you are having a small size of your business, when the level of activities are less, then it may be within the capacity, physical and mental capacity of the entrepreneurs to handle the business affairs. But if you keep on increasing your business size, then the level of activities will increase, size of the business will expand, which may be beyond the mental and physical capacity of your entrepreneur. And he may become inefficient in handling the business affair, which may increase your cost of production. So here what we have discussed, the higher factor prices. Factors, we have discussed the four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Out of this land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur, we have discussed capital and entrepreneur in external diseconomy, in this internal diseconomies, and land and labor you can uh, correlate with the external diseconomies. So here the external diseconomies got over, and with that the first part of the second unit, that is economies and diseconomies of scale, is also got over. From next lecture we will discuss production function. Thank you.